Hello. So what brings you here today?
Well, we've had conversations recently about your podcast, mental health, what you can offer, and it's I think conversation is great. I
Yeah.
think one of the purposes of mental health is people that get a stigma around therapy. People, you must go and see a doctor. You must take this tablet. And sometimes I think just talking
Mm-hmm.
can help so much more. I think it brings people out of themselves a little bit more.
Yeah.
Instead of going, oh, I don't want to talk to a therapist. I don't need help. I'm fine.
There is a whole stigma about therapists.
Yeah.
And obviously the only reason my mind's changed about therapists before because of the movies and the way of life and all the rest of it, you kind of expecting to be sat on a couch or laying on a couch, and it's completely nothing like that. It's obviously for the first 20 sessions I had, it was about building up trust with, you've got to have that bond. I've gone through 4 different therapists.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, obviously some of the stuff that I'm on about doing, we've had conversations about, the NHS is overwhelmed, especially with COVID.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's all you could tell what's going on by the fact that I've had to go back on like a month's waiting list, even though I'm like on the inside track, because obviously to give somebody else a chance to get their bit. There's not enough therapists. There's not enough people that understand, and the stigma. Like we've had plenty of conversations, and obviously you're coming down to do some personal training and bits and pieces. With mental health, do you think there's such a stigma for men compared to women?
That's a good question. I sometimes wonder if men are more likely to open up.
Mm-hmm.
I think, do men portray themselves that they must be strong, they must be the carrier, they must carry the weight of the world on their shoulders, and if they are seen to be emotional, if they are seen to be upset, if they seem to be struggling, that it's not expected, should we say.
Yeah. Because even with me doing the personal training and that for free, most of my clients are women.
Yeah.
Women, I find, a little bit more in touch with themselves, feeling wise, opening up. But as soon as you talk to a guy about it, they kind of shut down. So obviously when I first started, it was like, oh no, I'm a doorman. You can't admit weakness. You can't admit the whole thing. And it wasn't until I stepped out and did my very first just audio and put it up there, it was like a relief getting it off.
Yep.
And the response I had to recharge my phone up 4 times in one day, because everyone was like, I can't believe you've done this, proud of you. And it's the whole stigma of the whole mental health, people, what you're expecting them to think. The world isn't. And people, it's like the NHS. I went to obviously do I had to go in for a bone marrow biopsy.
Yep.
And basically you can tell they're stuck in their own ways, because when I explained, look, you're triggering me, I got told, pick a camp. I was like, what do you mean? Either you're here for mental health or you're here for cancer. And I was like, you what?
Wow.
And obviously if it wasn't for the woman that was in charge of the ward and bits and pieces, like, no, you've just come with me for a minute, chill out. But it's so, even with the NHS, there's not enough being done. And I feel like there's a bit like COVID, there's so many of us now and not enough people doing, yes, okay, it's great to do the walks, raise some money.
Absolutely.
Where's it actually going?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you say, you can raise awareness, but is it actually doing anything?
Yeah. And that's the bit, obviously, where what we've been talking about is obviously I need now, obviously I've worked out, it's £200 a month for 3 PT sessions a week. So that's basically free. You get what? So at the moment we're doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's £200 is to cover the fuel. So obviously everyone's willing to give up their time.
Yep.
But obviously they got to cover fuel, because it's just got to the point now where fuel, just to get people from Woodley and bits and pieces backwards and forwards, personal trainers, it's the fuel. And not that I'm completely helping, but I find that I'm the bit of the buffer that can hold them, that I never had, to get them on the waiting list, because it took me a year and a half before I could even get in there. I ended up spending a lot of my own money trying to do privately, and even privately, they're so overwhelmed. You're even on a waiting list. Oh, yes, it's quicker, obviously, because it's private. But even on the private ones, it's still a lot more. There's not enough therapists. There's not enough for the thing. So, like, there's a thing online. It's actual mental health therapists online. You can do it through an app. And I think that's one of the most brilliant ideas ever someone's come. But again, it costs money.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one thing I think is absolutely fantastic is talking therapies.
Yes. That's one of the first things that I did. Obviously, they discovered it needs a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
But that's like your first point of call.
Absolutely.
And without them, I think there'd be a lot more people in a bad situation is the best way to put that, right?
Yeah, I've used them on a train going to work.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, I can't breathe. All of a sudden, I've gone very, very hot. Am I having a heart attack? Everyone's staring at me. And I couldn't wait to get off this train. I had never experienced a panic attack in my life before.
So did you get that before COVID then, or?
Before COVID.
Before COVID?
Yeah, quite a while ago. But it completely changed my life because I'd go and wait for a train.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, I don't want to get on this train. So I had to change my journeys. I couldn't go on a 3-carriage train. I had to go on a 5-6 carriage train, one that was bigger. I had to stop at every station because I knew I could get off. Because
really?
My panic attack started on a train from Theale to Paddington, and it was a fast train. I couldn't get off.
Closed door.
Absolutely. So every time I went to get on a train, I was like, no, I need to get off at Reading and change. You know,
to get on one that you knew. It doesn't sometimes. Did you not have to get off the train then? But sometimes just knowing that you could
absolutely. So
helped with it.
Well, my friend said, but you're fine on a tube. I said, yes, because it stops every 2 to 3 minutes. I can get off at any time.
Yes. Yeah. That kind of makes sense.
You know, so I had to change everything. And obviously I went to my doctor at Theale, put me straight forward for talking therapies. Mm-hmm. I've never looked back. Don't even think about not getting on a train.
Did you do the 10 sessions?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I know a lot of people, and I think sometimes, like you said, just having that person that understands it, that's not judging you, that's not going to tell the world your inner secrets and the reason why you're having a panic attack.
Yeah.
Because obviously, without being rude, I find someone, imagine like me on a train, having a complete meltdown.
Yeah.
It doesn't really what's going on?
Absolutely. I literally got up and I went to where the doors were. I made sure I was looking out the window while it was still going. I made the biggest mistake though, putting 2 fingers on my neck to check my heartbeat, and then I'm like, oh, and now it's getting even faster. You know what's going on? So yeah, but talking therapies got me.
Yeah, there should be a lot more, but the problem, I find that they're just so overwhelmed.
Yeah, it takes a while for you to get an initial appointment. But I think for me personally, what I needed to know was why.
Why are you having them?
Why all of a sudden, out of the blue, did I just have a panic attack?
And what did they come up with?
It could have been a form of stress.
Mm-hmm.
I'm someone that yes, of course we all get stressed, but I'm very much someone that bounces through it.
Yeah, I would have said that from obviously talking to you in bits and pieces. I would never have said, from obviously meeting you at the club and bits and pieces, you would never have said, really?
Yeah.
But it can, and it proves it can happen to anybody.
Absolutely.
And it's, so obviously work, obviously stress, you've got a high job, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I tend to just deal with it. And that's what my therapist said. That's the problem. Are you dealing with it?
Or are you just stacking it away for another day?
You're taking on the situation and boxing it, then taking on it until you've got too many boxes and they topple.
Yep. Yeah, see, my therapist used the buckets. You're putting all the water in there, and eventually you're trying to poke holes in it.
Yeah.
But eventually it overflows.
Absolutely.
But it's, so since lockdown, do you feel like you got worse, or do you feel like it helped a little bit?
Again, for me, it is what it is. It's an expression that I use all the time. So you just bounce your way through life. And I'm very much, well, this is a situation we're in, so there's nothing we can do to change it. So make the best of a bad situation. So in some respects, talking therapies taught me how.
Gave you the tools, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's the one thing I've learnt now. Not just talking therapies, all the different stuff. So obviously kind of the journey that I've been on, it's all the different tools.
Yep.
It's a bit like someone said to me the other day, he's given up smoking for 10 years. I said, well, you're not a smoker. He's like, no, I'm a smoker that hasn't smoked for 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with mental health. It's never going to go away. You learn to pick up the tools as you go along.
Absolutely.
And I think talking therapies for me, okay, I've gone to the next stage.
Yeah.
Oh, I've gone a few stages up, but they gave me the first tools to deal with this tools. And that's the bit that I'm trying to do with, it's not just about the fitness. Obviously I do bits with music, which is obviously got the studies behind it.
Yeah.
But it's the combination of it all that can also, when they do go to talking therapies or the next bit, they've already got a certain amount of tools, which means they get more of a benefit
Yes.
from it.
Yeah.
And that's the other bit. So for me, lockdown was dreadful.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends said, oh no, it's great. I don't have to go to work. I'm getting paid.
Yeah.
I chilled at home and watched all my Netflix. To me, it was the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
I couldn't go to the gym because obviously at the time I didn't realize how much I was using gym to help.
Yeah, sure.
Obviously to be like stressful day, go to the gym. In the middle of the night when I feel like I'm having a panic attack or the rest of it, went to the gym. And that's what 24-hour gyms were great. But the moment they were like taken away from me, I was like, within 2 weeks, I was on medication.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And obviously trying to get into talking therapies and that bit, it was like, get in the queue.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the only bit, that's what I set out to do, realising the combination. Obviously I got myself qualified in mental health first aid, mental health for children, mental health in the workplace, as well as the personal training. And I thought, right, okay, I need other tools. I can't just rely on the gym because obviously it's now proven we will and can. Nobody ever thought COVID would ever exist.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that would you have actually said 2 years ago before this all started, yeah, we're going to be locked down for nearly 2 years?
No. Never in a million
What?
years.
Even when they said 6 weeks, 6 weeks, not bad. Shit, 2 years later, you've got having jabs, you've got to have this, you've got to have boosters, you've had to have top-ups, you have had, it's literally, so there's a lady in here called Lee. She'd never done children before. She does all like mental health, she does all the massages and stuff like that in here. And she's now, one of her biggest clients are children.
Yeah.
And so even with my own children, it's affected them so much.
Yeah.
Because you think, oh, yeah, kids don't want to go to school. They don't want routine. But it's like, even after some holidays now, my kids are still, and I imagine there's lots of kids out there that are struggling, even having that break again, to go back to school, to get into routine. And it's messing with their heads.
Absolutely. I mean, even if you look at people that spent 2 years working from home, all of a sudden to go back in the office.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. You have to retrain yourself, as you
So
say.
did you get any of that? In a sense of, because obviously you work from home, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because obviously the job that you do, it doesn't just stop.
Yeah, no.
So did you get any panic attacks or anxiety about going back to work?
I did, not necessarily going back to work. I think the problem for me was I was furloughed, then I was put at risk.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't going to take the risk of losing my job through lockdown, and started looking straight away and managed to actually secure myself another position.
Okay.
With a huge company. So in some respects, I found difficult was starting a new job and not being able to see any of my colleagues.
Yeah.
Not being able to meet them.
Troubleshooting, all the rest of it, right?
You know, doing training on core and cloud environments and not being able to ask anyone a question.
Yeah, you don't realise how coffee. Oh, I had this problem.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, if you do this one, you don't get any of that.
Nothing.
And that's the next generation that's coming up.
Yeah.
So I found like my a friend of mine, I was like, you're right. And obviously Kai knows the guy as well. He's very confident. And to see him after lockdown, how it's completely changed him, that he's having panic attacks, and we would both go, what? He was somebody that helped us.
Yeah.
And to see him in a completely different light now, it's like, wow, it can happen to anybody at any time. Because I had a really bad stigma. So obviously my sister-in-law, she probably won't. She doesn't care. We've had this conversation. I used to punish her for her mental health. What do you mean you can't come on holiday because you can't get off the plane? What do you mean you can't come here? And it's exactly what you just said. If she could get off the door, she would have been able to fly 15 hours. If at any point she wanted to get off, she could.
Absolutely.
And I punished her. And I was like, what are you doing? I've paid for the holiday. I've paid for this. And they couldn't do it. And obviously we had massive fallouts. And it wasn't until it hit me, I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I now understand. But it's until you go through it, I never understood it.
No, you can have all the training in the world. I've done a mental health first aid course,
Yeah.
and it can tell you what to say, what not to say, and it can tell you if someone is having a panic attack, how you should advise them and guide them.
Yeah.
But it's out of a textbook.
Yeah. And it's like as if someone, they do the best. What was it? They called it the continuum.
Yeah. Yeah.
That first thing that reminded me of was when I was doing a course. That's Star Trek, right? It's like, what?
Yeah.
But obviously you have to do, but I found I can help people more by having to go through what I've gone through.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I can relate that a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's different. Some people just like to be left alone, just to know that you're there.
Yep.
You know, some people like full-on conversations. And I think sometimes that is the problem that we have with the services we offer. It's one kind of the same service.
It's the exact same school. You teach all the kids the exact same, and it's exactly the same. You
Absolutely.
must fit into this box. You must do it.
Yeah, instead of offering different services for different people, because let's face it, we are all different.
Yeah, 'cause some of the people that are PT, I think sometimes we only do about 10 minutes. The rest of the time we've sat there, had a conversation, how you got in. By the time we do the check-in, how you feeling, all the rest of it, we've got about 10 minutes, and we're walking on the treadmill, having a full-on conversation, and it was only supposed to be a warm-up, and we're like, oh, that's the hour, that's done.
Yeah.
And obviously I use music as well, so obviously I get them to pick a certain song,
Yep.
and we play it constantly.
Yep.
And eventually, after releasing the endorphins training, when they're having a bad day, and the song works.
Absolutely. Yeah, music.
It works so well, but obviously the NHS, and like you said, that course never said anything about that.
Yeah.
That there's studies for this, there's studies for that. Like one of my friends, he uses mushrooms.
Mushrooms.
Mm.
Okay.
And the study behind it is the psychedelic stuff.
Right.
And apparently, according to the study, it actually can help regenerate and help with depression.
I understand that.
I can get it.
Yeah.
But could you think the NHS is going to go, yeah, that's some
That's the
magic mushrooms? It's not going to happen, is it? Because obviously, again, the stigma behind it and all the rest of it. But I think if you did a combination of things, like what I'm doing, what the NHS are doing, I think you need, what's the word I need? Like every 3 month MOT.
Yeah.
For your mental health.
Absolutely.
And I think businesses, if they did that, I think they'd get a lot more people less off of work. Then obviously, I'm signed off, I've got to do this. If you could, even if your boss understood it, helps a little bit more, right?
Absolutely. I'm very lucky with my manager. I'm very lucky with the company I work for. Even little things like when the Queen passed away, literally, because they're an American-based company, every member of staff had an email sent out about the tragic loss and that they stand with all UK staff, and links to wellness.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, links to click in. We also use Headspace.
Okay.
Have you heard of Headspace?
No.
Okay, it's an app. It's brilliant. I will show it to you. It's free music. It's, again, podcasts are on it, so maybe we look at reaching out to Headspace. Meditation, breathing techniques, everything. So, yeah, my company, straight away within 8 hours, people are like, it's just the Queen, but it might just be the Queen to you. Some people may be generally heartbroken that she's gone, but also some people that have mental health issues, that might be a trigger point.
Yep.
Might be a trigger point.
And strange enough, I'd watched Peaky Blinders loads of times.
Yeah.
I can't watch it no more. And it literally triggers me, and I don't know what it is in it. But like you said, there's anything at any time
Absolutely.
can trigger it.
Yeah.
So even when the Queen passed for me, it was kind of an end of an era.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't say I wasn't upset. It was, she's always been there.
Exactly.
It's like, it's all you've ever known.
Yeah.
Is, the Queen. To live to that age and go through what she's gone through, it even had to make me stop and think, hang on a minute.
I mean, even for me, it was sad, and, it was that misty eye. Nicola, bawling.
Oh, really?
Bawling. But she is very much a royalist. She is very much history, monarchy, World War II. But yeah, absolutely. Floods.
Yeah, I get it. Like even Junior, my son, even he was like,
yeah.
That's, he said, well, and he worked out in his lifetime, he should see 3 monarchs.
Yes.
And I was like, do you know what? It hadn't even, because I only ever knew one. I never, obviously, ever knew when Charles was going to eventually be there, but
Yeah.
no one really thought he was because he's what, 73?
Yeah.
You never thought he'd get there. You always thought the Queen, the Queen had to die at some point, but you didn't really think about she was going to die.
Yeah.
And I could see how it triggered so many different people.
Absolutely.
To have, 5 billion people watching?
Yeah.
That tells you a lot, right?
Absolutely.
That's more than the Super Bowl.
And they said it's the most downloaded and kept recordings of the Queen. Everyone has downloaded it and kept it on their Skybox.
In fairness, she helped Netflix. She saved Netflix.
Yeah, she did.
Netflix was having problems, and now was it The Crown?
Yeah,
it's now one of the most downloaded things ever in history.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it saved them a lot of money.
Yeah,
but obviously, she's helped. But she's done so much for the country. But for me, I wouldn't say I'm not a royalist, but it did affect me in a. Oh, stop! Hang on.
Absolutely.
We've just gone through COVID. We've just gone through this. We've just gone through that. It's just like a whole things and little things like you're saying can just trigger the whole thing.
Yeah.
So obviously on a lighter note, Kai, obviously you've been sat there nice and quietly. Was that you clearing your throat, Kai?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so what are we doing next then, Kai? Because obviously we've done the morbid bit. We now need to do the
we've actually got a new segment where I'm going to ask you guys 3 empowering questions.
You're the first one to do this with. This could be interesting.
Yeah. So I'll ask you both 3 of the same empowering questions, and then you basically just give me and the audience and everyone watching just how you would respond to it.
Go on then.
And how you would answer it.
Okay.
So the first one that I will ask you both. How can you today be more playful and laugh more? What can you do to make that happen to yourselves today?
Ooh.
Wow.
Kai, you went straight. Is that the easy question?
They're all empowering questions, so neither one of them are. They're not easy nor hard.
So let me get that right. So what can you do? Is it to basically make yourself more happy to?
Yeah. What can
live
you
life?
yourselves do today to be more playful and make yourself laugh more? Like, what's one thing you think you could do?
To me, not take on the whole world's troubles, other people's troubles, until you've dealt with your own. Then, if you're strong enough on the day, if you can't, just deal with your own trouble.
Mm. Yeah, I think for me it's not to allow other people's dramas wind me up.
Yeah, because you obviously it's so easy to get involved in somebody else's
and
drama.
I've always said, don't let anyone live in your head rent free.
That's a good saying. Kai, we're going to use that one on next week's podcast. No one's living in my head rent free.
I think when it comes down to happiness, you create your own happiness.
Yeah. I would say, adding to that bit, not only do you create your own happiness, if you don't physically want to be happy, you have to want to be happy. Absolutely. I think a lot of people like living in the darkness because it gives them something to. It's easier to be unhappy than it is to be happy.
Yeah.
Go on then, Kai. What's the next one?
So the next one is, how can you serve today?
What do you mean? Explain that one. We have to break that one down.
Like, what's something you can do today to sort of put, I guess, good energy into the world and sort of just like do something good? Like, how can you serve the day itself? Like,
I've got one.
On.
And obviously, this is a theory. My mum started this with me as a child. So obviously, when you're driving, that one person that's struggling to get out, let that person out. And hopefully that person will let the next one out. You kind of like start a chain event.
Yeah, see? Yeah, that's good.
That's what I would say, that you could help with one thing, be nice, and hopefully that nice thing will pass on and hopefully start a chain reaction.
Do you know what I would say?
Go on.
Smile more. Smile at people, whether you know them or not. If you're walking down the street and someone looks at you and you smile, what do? Normally?
They normally smile back. Yeah, again, that's not a bad one.
It's just a nice thing to do. You don't know, that person walking towards you might have had an absolute shit morning, and just by you, one smile can just lift them a little bit.
Oh, well, this is getting quite good. I quite like this. We have to do this next week, Kai.
Yeah.
You're not here next week, are you?
No, I'm not.
Go on, then. What's the next one?
So, if you keep doing what you're currently doing, in 5 years, where can you picture yourself and how would that make you feel?
Honestly, it might make me feel like I haven't accomplished anything. You know, I haven't. If I'm still, yes, doing the same thing 5 years down the line, it might make me question why.
Yeah.
Like,
See, where would I see myself? So it's where would I see myself in 5 years' time?
Yeah, if you kept up the same sort of energy and like self-improvement that you're doing now.
I'm hoping, even if I only save one person in the next 5 years, that's what I'm trying to achieve for the next 5 years, that somebody else
Yeah.
doesn't end up in. And if I manage to do that in 5 years with this positive bit that I'm trying to do now, then I've achieved exactly what I need to set out for the next 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Wasn't
then.
expecting that, was you, Kai?
No, I was.
Oh, was you? Have we got any more?
I can give you the last one.
Go on, then. This should be
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah.
What is something you can do to show up for yourself more?
Ooh. What can you do for yourself to show up more? What, as in, is it to stand out?
Yeah, in a way. I guess you could interpret it as that. I see it as like, what's something you can do for yourself today to sort of be like, right, okay, I'm gonna show up today and just like make the day the best day I possibly can. Like, what's something you would do today to sort of just show up for yourself?
See, I don't do it for myself. So truly, obviously, what got me through or kept me here and sometimes keeps me grounded even though they do my head in is my kids. So that's the only reason sometimes that I physically get out of bed. Well, because obviously I can be on a high one moment
Yep.
and a complete down. And the only bit, as much as they give me the, oh my God, some of the days you think, oh my God, what are you doing? Why are you doing this?
Yep.
And it's not too sat by yourself, bits and pieces. And eventually, I'm doing it for me.
Yeah.
I've kind of made a decision in the last month or so. Like my therapist's like, you can't just keep doing it for your kids. Yes, that was a good start. But to do it for me now is because I want to be able to do whatever I want, when I want,
Yeah.
how I want. So in the sense of, yes, there's 10 people that have come to me. Okay, I've got enough sponsorships. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's help that. And even if only one sticks to the 10, I've achieved it.
Yeah.
And that's what my purpose is so nobody ends up like me. So the one thing I can do for me is try to get myself better so I can help the next person.
Absolutely.
And that's the only thing I
Yeah.
can suggest with that one, Kai. On that one, though, Kai, what would you do if you being at the age that you are?
So one thing I do to show up for myself today, I would just, so in my head mentally, I've got like a list of things that I want to do within like a certain time period, whether that's, get everything like sorted for my uni room, or, post out more content on my social medias and my personal stuff that I do. It would be to actually like cross off a significant amount of that stuff. Like, obviously, if I don't have the time to do it, but at the end of the day, I'd want to turn around to myself and say, right, even though I was only maybe able to cross off 2 of those things today, I've still gone out of the way to make sure that those 2 things get done. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
I have also another question, obviously a little bit, kind of still on topic about mental health. So being the age that you are,
Yeah.
and obviously at uni, because obviously you've been on to the podcast a bit of pieces. If somebody come up to you now or messages, like I get messages, obviously, which we've gone through, Kai, in the sense of I need help, can you help this person? If someone at uni right now turn around doing what we've done now, understanding the bits and pieces, what would you do? They said that they're suffering with mental health and wanted to talk. What would you do?
Well, then I would do like the best I could to help them the best I can, because as much as obviously I know you might be able to help them, or I could send them to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that because they've come to me, I'd feel like, right, I have a responsibility to try my best to help them.
Yeah.
And then if that doesn't work, sort of be able to say, right, okay, well, I'm giving you, not in like a bad way or anything, but say to them, I'm giving you all the help that I know how to give you.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be doing enough. Like, I'd hope it'd be enough, but I'd like you to go and speak to so-and-so who should be able to help you further. And then I'd still continue to support that person in any regards, even if it meant they weren't coming to me with everything anymore and they were going to speak to someone else who they could relate to more and help them more.
Yeah.
That's quite a mature thing for you, Kai. Considering I know what you get up to at weekends, getting drunk. But do you think, obviously, this podcast has helped you, obviously, understand mental health a little bit better? Obviously, we've been on this journey for, what, 3 years now?
Yeah.
And obviously, when we very first started this, do you think you're more aware now of mental health and all the different problems, and by doing, obviously, listening and actually being involved in this podcast?
Oh, yeah, no, 100%. Like, I remember, you could probably ask me this 5 years ago, and I'd probably turn around and say, mental health, is that even like a proper thing?
Yeah.
Now it's like I've seen people who have gone through stuff, and I can understand it more deeply, which is why I believe that I can connect with people who are going through hard times. Like, I get a lot of people, like I get a lot of mates who go through stuff, whether it's in relationships, families, personal stuff like that. And even though I haven't been through those same experiences, just by from like being around Scott and the podcast and other people and engaging with it more, I find myself able to give somewhat good advice to help that person, even if it only helps them a little bit.
So, a question for you then, Sarah.
Yeah.
Before you had panic attacks, what did you think of mental health? Because I've never really asked anybody else this question. I know what I thought of what mental health was. I thought it was a made-up thing. It was an easy way of getting benefits and all the rest of it, right?
Yeah, I thought it was a quick excuse for people to use to mask their behaviour.
Yeah. Yes. It's like a get-out card, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's just obviously, Kai's obviously quite young, aren't you, Kai?
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously...
We're not.
And obviously, but I think at his age at uni, if I was at uni at his age, I don't think I would have helped anyone.
No.
Genuinely, it would have been like, mate, fuck off. What are you talking
grow
about?
a pair.
Yeah, literally, mate. What the fuck?
Yeah.
What do you mean you can't go to a lesson because you're having a panic attack, mate?
Yeah.
What? But it's now, even like, you've got the celebrities, everyone knows what mental health is.
Absolutely.
But do we? Do they really actually understand unless you've actually gone through it?
No,
Are they actually listening to the people?
Absolutely not. I think people have a level of understanding. They might understand, well, not even understand. They accommodate, I think.
Yeah. Because everybody knows they have to, right?
Absolutely. And, oh, yeah, okay, I'll accommodate, if accommodate's the right word. I appreciate what you're going through.
Yeah. But it isn't me.
But it isn't me.
No.
But then, do we have people that are using it?
And that's the bit where I was coming to then. Because there's certain people that are in my gym that have obviously cottoned on to the mental health bit, is to get them, oh, I did this, I've lied about that. And blah, blah. So there's a specific person in my gym who's lied. Said that his mum had died and all the rest of it. Oh, yeah. It was a bit wild. Some of the stuff that he'd come out with.
But then is that a form of mental health?
Well,
Because
that's what I pointed out to everybody. Like, yeah, look, listen, we all know he's lying. We've all proven he's basically lied that he got help, because you wouldn't have got help within 2 weeks and therapy and all back.
Yeah.
But there's an underlying problem there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If he's saying he's got a driver's license, cars, the guy was a completely opposite of what he's saying. But to me, that means he's crying out for help and nobody's realised. Everybody was I ain't talking to him. He's a liar. He's a bullshit. He's told his mum's dead. That's disgusting. Well, guys, think about it for a second.
Yeah.
You've in order to say stuff like that, you're crying out for help. And I don't think he knows what he's crying out help for. There's something very wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's only by going through what I've done and yourself. But the first thing you thought of, but 5 years ago, before it all happened to you, would you have thought like that? No. You would have been like, he's lying, he's this, he's that. And it just shows you, I think there's more people that have gone through like the journeys that we've gone through.
Yeah.
If you can get more of them involved, I'm telling you now, the world could be a different place.
Absolutely.
Easily. So, Kai, what are we going to wrap it up on with today?
So we're going to wrap it up with words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom.
So how this works is you just give us an inspirational sort of quote or saying.
Oh, did I not tell you about this bit?
You think can help you through the day.
I love this. This is funny.
Oh my God, a quote.
Well, you can do what Scott does and just repeat the same thing every week in a different format.
Yeah, but she also uses the same saying. It
She
is
did.
what it is.
She did, and
It
I
is
saw
what
your
it
face
is.
light up when she said it as well.
It is.
So,
what
Kai,
it
why
is.
don't you start? Because obviously I know you've got it on there already.
I did have one, but I want to change it.
Oh, you want to change it?
Yes.
Was it not inspirational enough?
No, it was. But I've also just lost where it is. So.
There
You two want to go first, and then I'll just quickly look for it.
So, obviously, I would normally say it is what it is.
So would
it
I.
was what it was. But somebody actually spoke to me last night and said, how are you not losing your head with all the stuff that's going on with relationships, exes, kids, life, work, all the rest of it? You're quite calm. And I was like, really?
Mm.
And I noticed I hadn't got, or before I had the breakdown, whatever you want to call that magical word,
Yeah.
I would have lost my head. I would have started smashing everything up, scream, shout. I'm going to, do you know who I am? All that, the
Yeah.
usual bollocks and bullshit that everyone hides behind. And then I thought to myself, it's that saying. I took one day at a time. Yes, might be up, I might be down. But as long as I get through that 24 hours, that's
Yeah.
all I'm worried about. Fuck what happens tomorrow.
Absolutely.
If I get tomorrow, I'll worry about it when I get there.
Yeah. And people overanalyze.
Yeah,
There's no point in worrying over anything
not really.
until it's happened.
It's pretty much so. Obviously, my brother, which he's so laid back when it comes to stuff like this. It's like, and obviously, my go-to, he brings me once a week, sometimes twice if he wants to be annoying.
Yeah.
And you literally say, "You're right," and he goes, "Yeah, just do my check-in." I was like, "Yeah," and then you obviously, he knows full well I'm just going to bombard him full of shits, all the thing, all my bollocks. He goes, "Yeah, okay, lovely, see you later." And all he knows I needed just was to literally get it off.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't judge me. He just goes, yeah, Scott, you know that one's your fault, right? What the fuck? Oh, yeah, all right. I'm going now, Shane, because he pisses you off. I'm going. And then you ring up there. Check-in time. Oh, you twat. But even just some things like that, just a nice check-in, get through that 24 hours.
Yep.
I know once a week Shane's going to help me.
Yep.
Just having that one person or being that someone's check-in
Absolutely.
can change the whole ball game.
Yep.
All right, go on then, Kai. You must have had your one by now.
Yeah, so I've got my one. It's more of sort of like a work related one, but I guess you can use it in on like anything. But it's work until you no longer have to introduce yourself.
Oh,
Mm.
work till you don't have to introduce yourself. Ooh. Go on then. What? How would you explain that? Because obviously, to me, that sounds like you're working hard, so nobody notices you.
Yeah.
No, but I mean work in a sort of way. So let's say, Scott, obviously we do podcasting and other social media content.
Yeah.
You should be able to work hard enough until the point where you could walk into any room, anywhere, like within, like, say, the UK, and someone can turn around and go, "Aren't you Scott who does the Open Doors, Open Mind podcast and social media and all that social media stuff?" And you go, "Yes." Like, you don't even have to introduce yourself. Like, you could go
Oh.
say you got an appointment with a client, and you
Mhm.
say, right, you go up to reception. You've never been to this building before. And she immediately, the receptionist knows immediately who you are.
I would love that. Genuinely, not only for my own ego, right? Do you know who I am? I do all the stuff with mental health. But obviously, that would also tell me that means it's working.
Yeah.
And that's the bit that I want is, obviously, everyone wants their 30 minutes of fame, right?
Of course they do.
But it also means if I've got my 30 minutes of fame, that means people are actually listening. That means the awareness is going around.
Yeah.
And that's the bit why we need more sponsors, Kai. Why have you not managed to do this yet?
Well,
One job you had, mate. One job.
and that is to film and edit, which we are currently doing.
Right, Kai, you know after this is definitely your last session, right?
Yes.
Do you want to sign off?
Well, I mean, I might as well do it this time since you didn't watch the last one. But so thank you, everyone, for watching the Open Doors, Open Mind podcast. This is episode 29. And before we sign off, I want to say I'm going to give everyone watching right now one empowering question that I'm going to ask you. And in the comments of this video and on our social medias, I want you to use hashtag Open Doors, Open Mind, and then followed with your answer. And hopefully, if Scott remembers, he'll read it out next week on next week's podcast, which will be episode 30.
Oh, We've hit the big 30.
Yeah. So, the question for our audience is, what are 5 things that you've achieved in the last week?
Oh.
It can be any sort of personal achievement or an achievement that's helped someone else. But yeah, write in the comments of this video and on all our social media pages using hashtag #OpenDoorsOpenMind and write your answers, and we'll read it out in the next episode.
Well, that's what a way to finish. And thank you
Absolutely.
very much for coming in.
You're welcome.
And Kai, hurry up and leave with you, mate.
I'll see you later, Scott.
See you later, mate.